Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
Whoa,
sorry.
who the hell are you?
Sorry, go ahead.
It's me, Tammany. Welcome back to Aetheral Space 9.35, True Silence. We are back.
Yes, and it's me, Darnell, and I sure hope that it's recording the correct mic and not my headset mic.
Me too.
I don't know how to tell. I almost want to stop it and re-listen, but I don't want to stop our momentum, you know what I mean?
Because we're like a boulder, like Sisyphus's baby.
Yeah, Sisyphus won't be able to lift me. He's only got one more left.
It's like, you're like with a boulder pushing against like this guy, he's done for. But then he gets like a heroic win, and we're like,
Do you think he has like a shonen moment every time
Exactly,
he's in club?
yeah.
He's like, this is it! I finally reached it, the
It's
top!
like,
And then he
this
falls.
isn't my punishment. It's yours, boulder, to never reach your destination.
And then it falls, and he's like Kaiji despair until the process repeats. He gets so cocky towards the top of that mountain.
Well, he just stops pushing and it was rolled back.
Yeah.
Because he's not like a punishment, he just never finishes rolling because he gets cocky.
This is so sad. A more extravagant taste. A more delectable fragrance. A young man is late for an... Oh, I thought this was a commercial. A young man is late for an appointment. Late for his future. But he takes the time to stop at his favorite tea parlor. Why? The taste has ensnared him. What could be more decadent? And of course, a romantic encounter too scandalous to show. Treat yourself today. You know you deserve it. Advertisement. New Leaves Imperium. What is this new Aetheral Space, like, brothel / tea warehouse?
It's New Leaves Imperium, the famous high-class tea leaves.
I see. Musashi would never use such an establishment. He simply wouldn't. Oh, man. Dragon furrowed his brow as he felt Wormcat shake her head. Musashi wasn't in there? Was she lying? She'd been running for this place with everything she had, and now she was claiming her target wasn't present? Dragon is also like those villains who were like that. And now she's claiming he isn't present. She didn't seem to be lying, but there was only so much Dragon could read of body language from the outline of Aether. If she wasn't lying, then what the hell did he do now? The Aether of the pursuing detectives came back into his range. They'd finally reached the end of the line. Sweat trickled down the part of Dragon's head that still existed as he considered his options. From the shape of the grizzled detective's Aether, Dragon could tell that he was moving his mouth. Why is detective capitalized?
Because that's the rank in the forgiveness score.
Oh, I see. If he concentrated, really worked for it, he was sure he could read those lips. "Stop right there!" he was saying. Of course. Then, with a bit more satisfaction, "End of the line, both of you!" End of the line, huh? Dragon had thought that too. With the toy Musashi not being here, he thought he had no further recourse. No weapon to use, no route to escape through, no plan to execute. He didn't even have his eyes and his ears right now. But he did have a weapon, didn't he? Oh my god, Blue Lock has poisoned my brain. He had a weapon pressed down against the floor, struggling to escape from his grip. Dragon smirked as he loosened his hold on Wormcat, just a tad, and called out to everyone gathered. "Think fast!" he said. With a flare of blue aether, he whirled around and hurled Wormcat in the direction of the gathered detectives, releasing the nether wire binding at the same time. From the shapes of their aether, he saw it all. He saw Wormcat fly through the air, legs flailing. He saw the detectives step back, raising their aether in defense. And he saw, with grim satisfaction, the scarf around Wormcat's neck slash once, lightning fast, and send 3 heads falling down to the floor. Immediately, Dragon's sight and hearing returned. He had no time to enjoy the sensation, however, as Wormcat shot herself back towards him right after landing. Her face was twisted in rage and resentment. No doubt she intended to do far worse than just cut his head off. Gemini World! Wormcat flew right through the space Dragon had previously occupied and into the open room. Her scarf dug itself into the ground to halt her momentum. She swung back around with her eyes full of fury, and she received a devastating punch directly to the jaw. Dragon's like, finally, I can go all out against a child. Just this once. Dragon was not the one who had thrown his fist. Instead, it was a man in a ruined long coat, his skin glossy with sweat and suffering. It was a man with long black hair and cold gray eyes! Oh! I'm doing the soy face. Dilated into feverishness. It was a toy Musashi, okay?
A toy Jack.
He'd been Musashi react. He'd been hiding in his room, cloaking his Aether, no doubt, and waiting to see who would come for him. Musashi staggered to a halt as he realized the person he'd just knocked unconscious was someone he believed to be an ally. "Olga?" he murmured, looking down at her prone form. "Oh no, Gemini World." Dragon appeared a short distance behind Musashi, his arms folded, looking down at Wormcat. Well, it seemed her name was Olga. He whistled softly. "Really did a number on her. Is that okay?" Musashi whirled back around, reaching by reflex for a sword that was not there until he recognized Dragon's face. "Dragon, Hadrian?" he muttered disbelievingly. "What are you doing here?" "Good to see you too, Musashi. I'm breaking you out, as you can see," Dragon said, before glancing down at Olga again. Same can't be said for her. Musashi narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" "She came here to kill you." Dragon broke it to him gently. "Whoever you're working for in the Supremacy, they're done with you. They want you silenced." Musashi stepped back, squatting down next to Olga and checking her pulse. Seemingly satisfied, he looked back up at Dragon. "That's quite the tale you tell. I'm not sure I believe you. How is it exactly you came to know about my predicament?" "Long story." "Tell it then." Musashi raised an eyebrow. Dragon rolled his eyes. "Seriously? This isn't exactly the best theater for that kind of thing. There'll be more security here any minute." Musashi's eyes were cold, and a spark of silver aether ran through his hair. "You're good at speaking quickly. I'm sure you'll manage." Looking at Musashi's face, with the promise of hostility not so far away, Dragon couldn't help but think back to the events in Panacea, to the last time they'd spoken, face to face. If only you'd never existed. Typical. For once in his life, Dragon decided to do something out of the goodness of his heart, and he got nothing but resentment for it.
Is that your automatic I hear?
Yeah.
The magician.
I don't know why it does that.
What's it say?
I'm just gonna unplug it. Hang on.
Oh my god, he doesn't like what it has to say, so he kills it.
We were at an emotional moment in Aetheral Space. That was the last straw. I don't even use that thing. It's unplugged now. Dead to the world.
Killed his automatic.
I did. It's not like it had a heart. It was an automatic, not an auto brain.
Damn.
It doesn't matter. You wouldn't care. How many automatics have you killed, huh? How many thousands perished in the war?
I open my shirt, you see many crushed automatics within forming my body.
Typical. For once in his life, Dragon had decided to do something out of the goodness of his heart, and he got nothing but resentment for it. He opened his mouth to speak. There wasn't time to explain fully, but maybe the cliff notes would satisfy him. "Well," he said, "you see, Silencio!" I don't know why I said it like that. Silencio. No, that's not her voice. What's her voice?
It's kind of like this.
I'm Marion Wheeler.
No, she's not that old.
Silencio. Silencio. The blue... Hold on, help me out here. Do it.
Like
do
Marion
it.
Wheeler, but not as old. Like someone trying to sound older.
Give me... You say Silencio.
Silencio.
Silencio. The blue aether buzzing around Dragon ceased, and the silver aether coursing around Musashi died. The door to the room slammed shut, sealing them inside and plunging the chamber into complete darkness, but only for a moment. A bright white light flicked on, revealing a room beyond, an observation chamber set to watch over the torture that must have taken place here. Sitting there, hands on her lap, smiling like a saint, was Gertrude Hearth. "The Supremacy sent this young man, then." She purred, cocking her head. "How very interesting. Well, then, shall we begin?" "You did it?" John asked kindly, looking into the eyes of his unfortunate victim. "Walk me through how you did it, then." The young man nodded in a daze. The two of them stood in the cramped confines of a custodian closet, just off to the side of this fellow's on-site accommodations. If they remained here too long, it would ordinarily look suspicious on security footage, but Jean had already dealt with that. "I went to my usual workspace to prepare the tea leaves," the young man mumbled. "I swapped some of the leaves with the ones you gave me. The machine scanned them for toxins. Came back all clear. Came back here." Jean smiled, patting his accomplice on the head. "Very good," he said. "Very good indeed. As he made physical contact, he made sure to drain just a tad more of his target's will, prepping him to receive further orders. Jesus Christ! Slavery Aether. Now, he continued, very soon the alarm to this place will go off. Once it does, I would like for you to kill yourself with whatever is on hand, after making sure you're in a place where your body won't be found for some time. If the alarm doesn't go off for any reason, I would like you to instead go home and kill yourself after writing a suicide note about all your woes in life. The particulars are up to you, of course. Understand? The young man was shaking in instinctive terror, but he nodded all the same. Jean's orders interfaced directly with the subconscious. Once you were in his grasp, there was no resisting him. Jean nodded gratefully. Well, thank you for your service. I'll be off. Without another word, he turned and strolled out of the closet, adjusting his custodian's cap as he went. With the way things were going, though, even he couldn't resist whistling a jaunty tune as he began his exodus from the complex. He'd won, after all. Sorry, my throat's a little gunked up. Can you read for a bit?
Yeah, no worries. Gertrude Half had first met death when she was a child. At that time, she had been nothing, just another stray vermin crawling over the planet of Pendulum. If events had unfolded just a little bit differently, she would have spent her whole life there, rotting away over the years into a senile hag and, after that, her rancid corpse. But Pendulum was a special place. Each night, at the stroke of midnight, a red light would sweep over the surface of the planet. Nobody knew where that light originated or for what reason it existed, but when it touched a conscious being, they would immediately die. Basic animals and plants would go unharmed, but without fail humans would perish, their hearts instantly stopping. For this reason, the people of Pendulum lived underground, in great subterranean cities that never knew sunlight or fresh air. Gertrude had always despised that place, wondering why in the world anyone would choose to live on such an accursed rock. Apparently her ancestors had been granted the planet begrudgingly for their contributions in the Thousand Revolutions, and now poverty and lack of infrastructure made it difficult to leave. What was not difficult on Pendulum, however, was eliminating the unwanted. Gertrude didn't remember exactly what her family had done to earn their collective execution. She had only been 9 at the time, and as such was not privy to the affairs of adults. Perhaps her parents or older siblings had indeed committed some dire offence, or perhaps they were just judged undesirable for their dirty blood. The result was the same: exile from the city, sentenced to walk without possession across the surface of Pendulum. It was called exile, but it was obviously execution. They'd be doomed to death by midnight that very same day. It had been cold on Pendulum's surface. Gertrude remembered that cold more than anything else. Sometimes, even now, she'd feel it brush against her skin in the dead of night. See how it improved on his director's cut as we go. It was rare for anyone to go to the surface other than lumber crews, and so it was the first time Gertrude had seen it. Forests stretching as far as the eye could see, utterly untouched by human civilization. Memories from there blurred into each other, lubricated by fear and a feral instinct for survival. They had tried to dig at first, perhaps, hoping they could create a big enough hole that the death wave would pass over them. With nothing but their hands to dig, though, that plan had come to an end quickly. They'd run, they'd fought, they'd hid, they'd killed. By the time Gertrude's memories became clear again, she was in the dark, curled into a ball, shivering in terror. She didn't know how, but at some point in her fugue state she'd found herself in a natural cave, a crack in the earth leading deep underground, deep enough that the death wave simply passed her by. All she could see of the outside world was a sliver of moonlight far above, framed by a vague silhouette of rocks. As time went on in the cave, the long hours stretching her terror to its limits, Gertrude saw the silhouette change. Indistinct rocks became a human figure. A girl around her same age, with pale skin and heavy black feathered wings. The eyes of that girl looked down at her like she was trash. Gertrude had once heard a story about a girl like this, and as she looked up at the dark angel, she whispered the name. Silencio. Silencio. She wandered out the cave the next day and was quickly found by a lumber crew, the only survivor of her family. The elders of the city weren't certain what to do with her. She'd been sentenced to implicit death, to be sure, but a girl who'd survived the unsurvival was a powerful symbol. In the end, she was simply given to a new family, raised as their daughter, placed back into society. But she did not forget the terror of being cast out, and she did not forget the humiliation of death looking down at you. Gertrude Half learned one thing from her ideal. The universe was an ocean, and the only way to stay afloat was to make a raft of your fellow man. No matter what the means, no matter how low you had to sink, it was worth it to keep you if it kept you breathing. That lesson had brought her to the very peak of the humorless sects. It allowed her to destroy any enemies in her path, to pull allies into her orbits, to bring the world to heel around her. Now she was the one who looked down at the foolish and the immature. 3 of those specimens now stood before her, on the other side of heavily reinforced glass. A cogitant with silver hair, an unconscious girl with a red scarf, and a black-haired swordsman she'd originally captured. Before she'd revealed herself, 2 of them had revealed their names. Dragan, Hadrian, and Muzazi, she purred, sipping her cup of tea. Those aren't familiar names to me, but the supremacy. Now that is interesting. The cogitant's, Dragan Hadrian's, eyes flicked around the room. It was quite amusing to see him try to puzzle out some escape from his current situation, like a rat in a maze. I'm afraid that the entirety of that room was within the range of my silencio, she sighed with mock sympathy. The very space around you has taken on the properties of Neverwire. There's no escaping it. If you seek to contain me, growled Muzazi, glancing at the ruined chair, you'll need to do better than this. Gertrude huffed. Don't flatter yourself. You broke out of that because I allowed you to break out of it. Now that you've served your purpose as bait, I'm not going to be as accommodating. So what now? Dragan called out, stepping forward up to the glass. He glared at her through the clear surface. You've got us. What exactly are you planning to do with us? You think you can keep us around you or in Neverwire forever? Gertrude frowned. While the young man had an adorable face, she truly...
I would get rid of the with us. What exactly are you planning to do after you've got us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Gertrude frowned. While the young man had an adorable face, she truly didn't like the defiance in his bright blue eyes. Perhaps she'd have them extracted in a jar.
I would buy that jar.
New merch? She'd been careless, she understood that now. She'd been so focused on Giovanni's provocations that she'd neglected to realise there could be other parties involved. Sowing discord would benefit the supremacy tremendously too, but now that she knew of their involvement, she could take steps against it. She was still in control. I'm more than aware I can't hold you forever, she said calmly, standing up from her seat, but I don't need to. I'm collecting more interrogation devices than the one back there. I'll break the 3 of you before long, find out what I need to know, and bury you. Perhaps if you're cooperative, I'll even kill you before that. It was as he glared. You'll find yourself disappointed, witch. Dragan tapped an inquisitive finger against the glass, clearly testing its density. You're confident in that, huh? He said. It's still 2 against 1. From what I've seen of the situation, you don't want other people in your organisation to know about this whole mess. I want to bet the 3 guys back there were the only backup you had. Such an irritating child. Gertrude's eyelid twitched. I can flood that room with sleeping gas with the tap of a button, she said patiently. You can run your mouth all you like, but it will only make me win faster. I have nothing but confidence. You might be on your own here, Dragan went on, but we're not alone. People will come for us. Gertrude smirked. Oh, I hope so. The more idiots walk into the slaughterhouse, the more bang. The glass was painted red. Gertrude blinked. Huh?
Did she just get hyenaed? Is that what happened here? Did she just get hyenaed?
Probably. Let's find out what happens.
Dragan widened his eyes. What? He breathed. Slowly on the other side of the glass, Gertrude Harth looked down at herself. Her eyes widened, and as she opened her mouth to speak, blood dribbled from the corners of her lips. As she stepped back, her legs shook beneath her. Gertrude's stomach had exploded outwards. The front of her torso was a cavity of red, her shattered ribs opened like the lid of a treasure chest. Pulped organs slipped free of their resting place and dropped down to the floor. As Gertrude opened her mouth again, trying to say something, perhaps to negotiate against the death that had come for her, the only thing that came from it was smoke. She fell back, slipping on her blood, and never stood again. Muzazi stared in silence, his face twisted uncomprehendingly. Dragan imagined his own face looked much the same. What the fuck? He muttered. Jean Lyons lit the stator again, the small silver coin landing peculiarly slowly onto the back of his palm. It landed on the supreme seal, the coat of arms intertwined with a powerful fist. That made flip number 2030.
23.
200... Wait, what?
2030 is not a number, I apologise.
Okay, 23, there we go. I was like, what is 2030? Is that some Aetheral Space
New Aetheral
counting?
numbers.
more than enough to replenish the stocks this little maneuver had cost him. Storefronts flickered by as the taxi took him down the street, away from the humanist complex. He always enjoyed a peaceful drive, especially when he wasn't the one behind the wheel. A dynamic environment outside the window did wonders for one's thought process. He'd felt the recoil when he used his ability. His observation of Hearth's power on the night Musashi had been taken had been accurate then. If the Aether was activated from outside the area of effect, then it would still work, even if the target was inside Gertrude's power. It was true that Jean's ability was to drain people's willpower by touching them, but that was only the power in his right hand. Oh, fuck this. I love him. The power stored in his left hand drained something completely different. "Here should be fine," he called out to the taxi driver. "Thanks for the ride." "No problem, boss," the driver said, pulling up and putting the car into hover. "Hope you choose us again in the future." Jean scanned his grace token, paying for the ride, and then, before getting out, handed the driver the coin he'd been flipping. "Tip for you," he said. "It's an antique. Might sell for a little bit." The driver turned it around in his hand, a bemused look on his face, but accepted it all the same. Jean left quickly after that. Even if the man thought the gesture was odd, he wouldn't live to voice that suspicion. An hour later, as he was about to end his shift, his taxi would suddenly explode. His body, along with anything on his person, would be destroyed by the Are you telling me his ability is like Killer Queen right now?
Who knows what it could
Is that
do?
what I mean, the taxi exploded, so I think I know what it does.
Well, do you know how it does?
Jean.
Is the thing.
Jean had already arranged for the passenger records to be wiped too. The fact that he'd gone to the humanist complex tonight would utterly disappear from this world. He's also gonna fucking open up his stomach and there's gonna be like another Aether user inside.
My name is Jean. His name is Lions.
He's got like a little chimpanzee that can use Aether. He's like... It's like, behold. As Jean walked the rest of the way back, hands plunged into his pockets, he couldn't help but have a spring in his step. 1 down, 2 to go. Look at him, he's so joyful. I'm skipping. Wow. I can't believe you hyena'd Gertrude. It's been a while since we got one of those. Right after her backstory, too, in true JoJo fashion. You squeezed it in at the last minute there. So I thought of a very interesting world-building question for you if you didn't already have something in mind.
My God.
So this one's going to require a bit of thinking,
okay.
And you might have to improv your way out of this
Holy
and
shit.
expand on it
I'm
later.
thinking so hard.
Here's what I want you to think about. What planet in all of Aetheral Space has the smallest population? How big is that population? And why is it that small?
The planet Home, formerly known as Earth, will probably have the smallest population. Or like...
Really?
Like,
not even like... Okay,
because
continue.
I assume population here, there's a minimum sort of cut-off point before it's just like one guy on a planet.
No. I mean, by all means, like, even if it's like 5 dudes on a planet,
okay.
What's like the most like?
Well, some of those won't be very interested.
Aetheral...
Is my concern?
What's the Antarctica of Aetheral Space?
Well, this is something that was like I thought about for like some spin-off stuff. There's a planet somewhere like there's basically 3 Aether users who crash landed there a long time ago, infected by some weird bacteria. So they're both like Aetheral gods on this planet. And basically, all the other people there are extensions of the Aether, basically. So there's only 3 actual people.
Okay. What's that planet called?
There isn't a name.
Really?
It's not like officially discovered. That's hence why no one's come to like pick them up.
It's untitled, like half of every punk song in 2000. Untitled planet. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, go ahead and tell us about Home too.
So Home at the moment is very, very popular. A couple hundred people in sort of small warring tribes, mostly sort of pugnant population.
Damn. Home never changes.
Yeah, because it's basically like an irradiated wasteland.
Even after hundreds of thousands of years, it's not cleaned up?
Yeah, no. It's considered like a historical curiosity at this point. It's not relevant.
Damn. What about Mars? How did that work out?
Mars is pretty okay. A lot of them got different names now, though.
Here's another interesting one for you, then. I'm going to keep it going.
Okay.
What planet has the largest population? What's it called?
Serendipity, capital of the UAP.
Oh, interesting. What's the population there?
Trillions.
Trillions?
A trillion. Let's go down.
Even still, okay, how big is this planet?
It's very big.
Or is the entire planet
it's like a
New
Coruscant
York
sort
level
of thing.
density? Okay. So it's like a Jupiter, but like a rock planet.
Yeah, but it's one city.
It's all one city
Yeah.
across the whole planet. You're telling me it's day in one part of the city, night in another.
Yeah.
Totally different climates.
Yes.
One city, Tam.
Yes.
I want you to fathom that, because I feel like your brain may have abstracted the concept of a city, and I want you to. I want you to
Different
imagine
districts,
that.
of course, but it's all one city. There's no gap.
So there's no wilderness area. There's no nature.
There is
It's
not
just
now.
one city.
There used to be, but not anymore.
Wow.
Everything has to
That's
come from
something.
off planet, or like
It's
in
called
big, like,
serendipity. You said
serendipity. There, yeah.
a trillion. How? That's just in sheer numbers. That planet alone is like, what can that produce? Like at least a couple billion soldiers. That's insane. Think about that.
Yeah. I'm not going to back down. You asked me.
No. I'm going to do math. Let's look up how many people
I don't know.
are
I've been there.
in
I've been there. Have
the
you?
U.S. military. So there's 1.4 million. All right, so let's do 300 million divided by 1.4 million. Okay.
Why?
Wait, I'm trying to find a ratio here. What am I looking for?
Here's a fucking.
No, sorry.
Here's a ratio for you.
Sorry. 1.4 million divided by 300 million. Okay? Okay, so that is 0.004666. So 0.004666 times 1 trillion. Alright, so let me see how many commas this number has. So that would mean if it's the same ratio as like the US military to its population, Serendipity alone has 4,666,000 soldiers, which is more than half of Earth's population.
Maybe
in
it has
fighting
20
force.
billion population.
Can you imagine like over half of all of Earth coming to your location? and imagine these are 4 billion people that probably have like sci-fi weaponry and Aether. I'm not saying you need to change the number. I'm just saying I like if the supremacy can't match that number, then they must have some shit going on. That means they're not getting wiped out. They got something going on.
Well, about the same size
There has-
as supremacy overall.
Damn, that's a lot of people on one
It's
planet.
a galaxy, of course. There's a lot of people.
On one, that's a lot of people on one planet.
It's a big
I'm
planet.
just
That's all I'm saying.
It's a big that there's a lot of things that happen. Do you know what the birth rate must look like? 1 trillion people fucking all the time. Oh my god,
They have
That's
magical.
crazy.
They have sci-fi devices called Aetheral condoms in this world.
heartbeat.
There's a
condom.
guy who has an ability that stops you fucking.
Do they have some sort of rule like China did with like how many kids you can have
Oh,
on
yeah.
Serendipity? Oh my god, I can't even fathom 1 trillion. That's such a large amount of people. That's like how many dollars there are in the whole world, I think, or something like that.
Why is that? How many dollars there are?
Yeah.
There's so
How
many
many
dollars?
How many dollars are in the whole world?
Look what happened when we counted all the dollars.
Oh, sorry, there's $40 trillion. But that's still, you have to think about how many dollars there are.
It's 1/40 of all the dollars in the world.
That means that in Serendipity, if you took all the money we have in the world, every citizen of Serendipity can only have $40 to their name.
These are bizarre,
nothing.
bizarre like figures to quote.
I'm just saying that's a lot of fucking-
serendipity with that population.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't understand the sheer scale of resources they can
You
see.
know what? I was gonna back down, but you told me not to, so I'm never gonna back down.
You shouldn't. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I want you to comprehend that population, and depending on like
comprehend it
the
easily.
comparative populations, I want you to understand how insane that planet must be, and the things that would be required to keep that planet running.
Yeah, they
And
don't like
how
it.
they even, where they put what they do with people, even if you cremate them, and how there's enough water. I want you to think about that.
I thought
That's
about
a
it and
lot
I
of
understood it completely. I can imagine anything about that tweet.
It's just a lot to comprehend. Okay. But anyway, thank you guys for listening to our insane ramblings, and we'll see you next time. Bye.